What is a crazy story that does not seem real but it is? Clifford Hoyt, also known as the man who escaped hell, is an American citizen who suffered a serious car accident on the morning of December 5, 1999, while driving along Maple Grove Road in Maryland. Injured, he managed to get out of the vehicle and onto the road where he lost consciousness. After a few minutes, a truck driver, noticing his body lying on the road, immediately called 911. Transported to hospital, Clifford's clinical picture seemed desperate, for the doctors thought the man had little hope of surviving. After a few days, after waking up from his coma, he began to scream and cry. The nurses who rushed to his aid were surprised by this sudden awakening and at the same time shocked by Clifford's behavior. He was acting frenetically. For several days he was crying and struggling. Clifford said that he had been in hell and that he had suffered unimaginable torture. But not only that, he also added that it was a place full of flames and moans, where everything smelled of sulfur and decay. Several weeks later, having recovered from his injuries and the deliriums were over, Clifford was discharged from the hospital and returned home, so the worst seemed to be over. Sadly, a week after returning to his apartment, the owner of the house called the police because he complained that there was loud music coming from Clifford's apartment. The owner, while waiting for the officers to arrive, and after knocking repeatedly without receiving an answer, took the spare keys and opened the door of the apartment. He found himself faced with a scene that he would never have imagined. The entire room was full of excrement. Clifford, on the other hand, was completely naked and was lying on the floor sleeping, or so it seemed, hugging a huge block of ice. Then, after hearing the noise the owner made, he got up and went to play his digital piano for a couple of minutes. While waiting for the police to arrive, he got up, crawled to a corner of the room, and collapsed. The owner, although shocked, took photos which he handed over to the officers. Clifford not only claimed to be aware of what he was doing but also gave an explanation. He played music at a high volume because it was the only way to keep away the demons who wanted to take him back to hell, and every time they returned it was as if a portal opened from which an unbearable heat escaped that he could only combat with ice. Clifford was hospitalized again, but this time in a psychiatric hospital. At different times he was visited by 3 psychiatrists, of whom 2 claimed that his behavior was due to the brain damage suffered in the accident. One, however, although not believing Clifford's story, noted something in his eyes, a glimmer of balance that led him to study and delve deeper into the case. So, he decided to isolate him in a room and monitor his behavior. The psychiatrist comments, "For several days I didn't allow anyone to visit him. I was in the next room listening to what he was saying. Then one night I heard him laugh. But it wasn't a simple laugh. More than anything it was a cross between a laugh and a strange sound, a sound that honestly had very little human about it. So I ran into the room, and when I opened the door, Clifford was alone, hugging the block of ice I had allowed him to hold. That's why, even though I signed off on him being transferred to a mental rehabilitation center, I don't think Clifford is completely lying." To this day, Clifford Hoyt is still hospitalized and convinced that demons haunt him.